Hey everyone, welcome back. This is a true story from my 2023 visit to a forgotten town in rural Nevada, where everyone I met had no eyes. What I uncovered there still haunts my nightmares. This'll make you fear small towns. In the summer of 2023, I was 27, a freelance journalist chasing stories of forgotten places. I stumbled across mentions of Hollow Creek, a tiny Nevada town off Highway 50, known as America's loneliest road. Online forums whispered about its residents. None had eyes, just empty sockets, yet they lived normally. Intrigued, I packed my notebook and camera, driving hours through desert to reach Hollow Creek. The town was a ghost. Dusty streets, boarded shops, maybe 50 people left. At the diner, the waitress greeted me, her face bandaged over her eyes, voice cheerful but hollow. She poured coffee without spilling, like she could see. I asked about the town. She smiled, saying, "We gave our site for peace." Other patrons, all eyeless, nodded silently. My skin crawled, but I booked a room at the motel, determined to dig deeper. That night I heard chanting from the desert, low and rhythmic, like a ritual. I peeked outside. Figures stood in a circle under the moon, their sockets glinting. I locked my door, heart racing, feeling their eyeless gazes on me. The next morning I explored Hollow Creek, camera ready. The townsfolk moved with eerie precision, walking, working, all without eyes. At the general store, the clerk, sockets bare, handed me change perfectly, whispering, "Don't look too long, Emma." My name. How did he know? I asked about the town's history. He said a visitor came decades ago, offering prosperity for a price. No one elaborated. I found a library, its shelves dusty but intact. Old records mentioned a 1960s cult, led by a stranger who promised eternal sight through sacrifice. Photos showed residents with eyes, then none, smiling blankly. That night, the chanting returned louder from an old church. I crept closer, hiding behind sagebrush. Figures in robes circled a stone altar, sockets glowing faintly, chanting, "See without seeing." A cold wind hit, and my camera shut off. Battery dead. I ran back to the motel, but my room's mirror showed no reflection, just empty sockets staring back. The chanting followed, now inside my head, whispering my name. I barricaded the door, clutching my notebook, terrified of what they'd sacrificed. I barely slept, the chanting relentless. At dawn, I interviewed a gas station attendant, eyeless like the rest, who warned, "Don't stay past 3 nights." He wouldn't explain. I found a journal in the motel's nightstand. Pages scrawled with phrases, "The visitor takes your eyes, gives you truth." Sketches showed a figure with a gaping mouth, no eyes, leading people into the desert. My photos from the day developed on my laptop. Everyone had a shadow behind me, eyeless, smiling. I called my editor, but the line crackled, a voice hissing, "Emma, join us." My phone died, screen flashing that shadow's face. I drove to the church, needing answers. Inside, it was empty, but the altar was stained dark, surrounded by eyeless footprints in the dust. A cold hand brushed my neck. I spun, no one there, but my camera clicked on its own, snapping a photo of me with that shadow closer, its sockets glowing. The townsfolk gathered outside, staring without eyes, silent. I fled to my car, but the engine wouldn't start, and their whispers filled the air. Trapped in my car, I locked the doors as the eyeless townsfolk circled, chanting softly. Their sockets seemed to see me, glowing faintly under the moon. I tried my phone again, no signal, but a new photo appeared. Me in the car, the shadow figure sitting beside me. I screamed, checking the back seat. Empty, but the air was freezing. A local mechanic, eyeless, knocked on my window, offering help but whispering, "You've seen too much." I refused, flooring the gas when the engine finally turned over, speeding out of town. At a gas station 20 miles away, I checked my camera. Every photo now showed the shadow, its mouth wider, sockets deeper. A trucker overheard me panicking and shared a story. Hollow Creek's cult worshipped the visitor, a thing that took eyes to see the truth. He'd seen an eyeless man hitchhiking nearby, vanishing when looked at directly. My motel key left behind was in my pocket now, etched with an eye symbol. The chants echoed in my head, urging me back. I didn't return, but the town followed me. In my Reno apartment, mirrors showed fleeting eyeless faces, my own reflection sometimes missing eyes. I contacted a paranormal investigator, Rachel, who researched Hollow Creek. She found records of missing travelers, all last seen there, and a 1965 police report of a cult leader who vanished after a ritual. My photos kept changing. New ones appeared, showing me in Hollow Creek, the shadow closer, its hand on my shoulder. Rachel visited, bringing sage and salt, but the sage wouldn't burn, and the salt scattered on its own. At night, footsteps circled my apartment and my camera clicked, capturing the shadow in my bedroom doorway, sockets glowing. Rachel said the visitor wasn't human, maybe demonic, binding itself to those who saw it. We found a symbol under my bed matching the journal's sketches. The chants grew louder, now in my dreams, saying, "Give your eyes." My vision blurred briefly, like something was pulling at my sight. I kept lights on, terrified of losing myself to the town's curse. The entity escalated. My eyes burned, vision dimming for hours. Photos appeared in my email, sent from my own account. Me in Hollow Creek, eyeless, smiling with the townsfolk. Rachel called a priest, Father Torres, who sensed a presence clinging to me. He performed a blessing, but the room shook, mirrors cracking, and the shadow appeared, its sockets bleeding darkness. Mouth chanting my name. It lunged, hands cold, whispering, "See with us." I clutched Father Torres's cross, screaming prayers. The shadow recoiled, shrieking, but my camera kept snapping. Photos showing it closer, my eyes fading. We burned the photos. They turned to ash, but new ones printed from my offline printer. The priest said the visitor wanted my sight, my soul, to join Hollow Creek's eyeless. Footsteps echoed outside, and the townsfolk's faces appeared in my windows, sockets staring. Rachel and I fled to a church where the chants weakened, but my vision flickered, like eyes weren't mine. The shadow's voice lingered, promising truth if I surrendered. In the church, Father Torres continued the ritual, sprinkling holy water that steamed on the floor. The shadow appeared, weaker but still smiling, sockets pulsing. My vision cleared briefly, but photos fell from the ceiling. Me, eyeless, standing in Hollow Creek's church. The priest said the entity was tied to the town's altar, feeding on sacrifices. We drove back to Hollow Creek at dawn, Rachel and Father Torres armed with salt and crosses. The town was empty, houses abandoned, but the altar stood glowing faintly. We poured salt around it, chanting prayers. The ground shook and the shadow emerged, screaming, "Emma, you're ours!" Its sockets bled, forming eyes that stared into me. I threw the motel key at it. It burned and the shadow dissolved, the chant stopping. The townsfolk appeared, sockets empty, then vanished like smoke. My vision returned, but the altar cracked, oozing black. We fled as the town seemed to collapse, buildings sinking into dust. Back in Reno, I moved again, avoiding mirrors. My vision is normal, but at night I see eyeless faces and shadows, hear faint chants. I joined a paranormal forum. Others reported Hollow Creek vanishings, some seeing the shadow in their photos. A trucker said the town's gone from maps, just desert now. I burned my camera, but photos appear in my mail. Me in Hollow Creek, the shadow behind. Father Torres checks on me, saying the visitor may still linger. Unbound. My eyes itch sometimes, like something's watching through them. Online, a survivor described an eyeless figure hitchhiking near Highway 50, vanishing when approached. I keep salt and crosses everywhere, but footsteps circle my apartment at 3 a.m., and my reflection sometimes shows empty sockets. Hollow Creek's gone, but its curse follows, waiting for me to look too long. I avoid small towns, fearing I'll see those faces. Feel that pull to join them. Thanks for watching the video, subscribe my channel. That's my story, true and terrifying. Avoid lonely towns. Some steal your eyes.